Hello everybody and welcome to What the Function. Today we're going to begin our first lesson in section 1.1 to kick off the new school year at Eisenhower High School for Math 1 students. And this is on what's called variables and expressions. And the goal of this is to write algebraic expressions from verbal expressions. So we're going to take the things that are written as words and we're going to algebraize them. As I like to say, I'm pretty sure algebraize is not a word. I'm not terribly concerned about that. But we want to be able to take things that are written and then write them in a form that becomes algebraic, or in a way that is shorter than trying to write the stuff in the word. So not only is it quicker to write, but it's also going to be something that we can work with in a mathematical form. So we're going to take a look at just some examples that we have here, and I'm going to include these examples wrong page. Include these examples directly to the left here, or I think I'll go ahead and put those to, I'll just leave these right here. And I want to just take a look at some examples, or things that we look at when we're reading additions. So at this point here, I'm going to try to get these up here. There you go, the first 5. And in the first example, it says we have like the sum of A and 8. Here they're giving us what the variables are going to be, and I think that everyone knows whether we're talking about sum, plus, added, more than, or increased by, that these are all symbols, or that these are all words that can be represented by a plus sign. Increased by works this way too. Whether we have the sum of A and 8, when you see the sum in front of the sentence here, this implies that we're going to be adding two quantities that are coming up. And the two quantities we see here are going to be A and 8. And the fact that we have this word in front, that's going to bear a special quality that we're going to talk about in a little while here. So it's going to be the sum of A and 8. 4 plus C, you can just literally just put a plus sign in place of this. That'll be 4 plus C. 16 added to M, okay, we're going to just write that out as 16 plus M. 20 more than F. Now, one of the words here that makes this a little different, and especially if English is not your first language, get to know this. But I'm sure a lot of students will need help with this as well. When you see the word than, this is something we call a turn around word. Especially when it follows like either more or less. So the way we're going to write this, if you have 20 more than F, is we're going to write this as 20 plus F, but rather we're going to write this as F plus 20. So it is 20 more than this quantity. So when we see the word than, and there's another one coming a little later too, we're going to go ahead and flip it around from the order we have here to the order we have here. In this next part, we have T increased by R. So this is going to be capital T. Make sure to keep the, if it's capitalized, to keep that. Increased by, that'll be plus again, and that's going to be just the letter R. So we have, in that case, T plus R. So one thing you probably want to take note about is when we see the word than in a verbal expression, this is one of those two words that we consider a turnaround word. Those are the examples that involve the plus sign. I'll move that up there so that you can see that I just noticed that it wasn't up there in the first place, so my apologies. Anytime that you want to stop this video to take some information down, please feel free to do so. The next examples I'm going to go to are going to be subtraction examples. Subtraction examples are probably the cases in which is most likely going to be some type of turnaround word. Let's take a look at this. In the first example, you recall that we had the word the sum in the front. In this case, we have the difference. And this is going to be another important one that we're going to look at later. And this one says the difference of 23 and P. So if we're taking the difference of something, all these, minus, less, decreased by, reduced by, subtracted from, and we're going to star this one a little bit here too, because that's going to be another turnaround word. All these are going to reflect some subtraction. So when we talk about difference in this example, it's going to be the difference of two quantities. So we're just going to go to put a subtraction sign and then see what order those quantities appear in the verbal expression. So this is the difference of 23 and P. So it's going to be written as 23 minus P. We have 550 minus H. We can literally just put a minus sign there and just copy this down without the word minus. So this would be 550 minus H. Now, here's that word, than again. And as we talked about before, than is a turnaround word. So when I see the word than, W less than 25, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the minus sign down, and then I'm just going to simply turn these around to write this as 25 minus W, because W less than 25. Next one, 7 decreased by J. So that's going to be 7 decreased by J. That's fine. M reduced by X. M reduced by X, or subtract. The other turnaround word that we're going to see, and again, when you see the word from, right before it, you're going to see added or subtracted, something dealing with addition and subtraction. So when we see the word from, this is another turnaround word. So instead of saying 12 subtracted from I, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write this as I, and I believe that's an I instead of a 1. I'm going to treat that as an I minus 12. And just to make sure that students don't confuse that with a 1, I'm going to go ahead and make that a capital I. So whenever we're working with algebraic expressions that involve additions and subtraction, most of the time we're going to write things in order as they appear in the question, with the exception of when we see the words than and from. Feel free to stop the video at any time to take any of this down, and we'll go from there. We're going to go to the next step now. We're going to talk about multiplication and get some of these expressions down and see if we can make some sense of this. Words with multiplication include product, times, twice, of. Of is a big one. That shows up a lot. Or multiplied by. So if you see any of these words, you're thinking multiplication. Take a look at this again, how in the case of like product, it shows up at the very beginning. So I'm going to put that there to indicate that operation. I'm going to see what things are being multiplied. And that'd be 4 times x. So 4 times x, or, I mean, since we're in high school, we don't have to show this. We can just simply write this as 4x. As you probably know, if there's nothing between the 4 and the x, you may assume that multiplication is implied. 20 times b, I can write this as 20 times b, or again, because multiplication is implied, I can write this as 20b. Twice x, so when you see the word twice, this has two things going on. So when you see the word twice, this is equal to 2 times. So we can write this now here as 2 times x, or just 2x. That'd be twice x, and that's now done. We have 3/4 or 3/4 of m, so this would be 3 over 4 times m, or just 3/4 or 3/4 m. And then finally we have 7 multiplied by x, so this is going to be 7 multiplied by x, or just 7x. And those are just some examples of the different types of words we encounter for multiplication. We're now going to take a last look at a few of the problems involving division, and for these we're going to go ahead and show these toward the right hand side. You're going to see how these are panned out. The one example I'm going to cross out because ratio can be used a little differently. I'm going to go and cross that out. But quotient divided by, and the price per gallon. Now this one comes up a little less frequently. These are the two that are most commonly used. Okay, so we talk about the quotient of R19. So again, this is the word coming up first. So we know that division is coming up. So we talk about the quotient of R19. So we can write this as R divided by 19. Or we can write this let me put this over here as r divided by 19, written as a fraction instead of being written lengthwise. But both of these will be acceptable. The more common one we're likely to work with, at least at the algebra level, is going to be this one. Again, for number 2, we can take x divided by d, and we can just write this as x divided by d. Again, the one we're more likely to work with in Math 1 is when it's going to be written in the form of x divided by d, where it's going to be written as a fraction. In the case number 4, we have the price P per gallon G. This is going to be the price P per, and it's going to be gallon. We're going to put G down here, or we could write this as P divided by G. Now, if we're looking at working with addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, those are the basics. Next video is going to cover things that are just a little more complex. Thank you.